Hello everybody, welcome back to C&S Corvettes in beautiful sunny Sarasota, Florida. It's your Corvette buddy Lyle here to talk to you about more interesting, exciting, and today historical Corvette stuff. Today we're going to cover one of the lesser known kind of one-off crazy concept cars that was done back in the 70s, and you won't believe some of the stuff they did to make this car happen. We'll get into it right now. Whoa, wait a minute. Guys, we are just a handful of people away from 70,000 subscribers. 70,000. I did a video just a few months ago that we were at 65. Now we're going to hit 70. So I have a very ambitious goal for 2025, and you guys are the only ones who can make it happen. I want to hit 100,000 subscribers by December 31st of this year. All you have to do, if you like our videos, if you find any value in what we do and you're not subscribed, please just hit that subscribe button. We're not going to bombard you with emails. We're not going to try to sell you a bunch of stuff, but it really helps our channel. And man, nothing would be a better Christmas present for Lyle, me, than to get my 100,000 subscriber plaque from YouTube. That is one of my stated goals for the short term, and it would really mean the world to me. So, if you found what I do helpful or entertaining, the easiest way to thank me is by hitting that subscribe button and liking videos that you find useful. Thanks so much. Now, I won't tell them I said this. Let's get back to what we were doing. So today in 2025, if you're car guys or car girls, you're probably aware, swapping LS engines into just about everything is pretty much the standard. Everybody loves the LS engine, and it's going into all kinds of different vehicles. One of the things that it's been going into very frequently is the second and third generation Mazda RX-7, which is kind of funny because those cars originally had Wankel rotary engines in them. And you're thinking, well, that makes sense. You're taking that weird kind of funky thing that spins all strange and putting in a V8, which I agree with. But did you know, about 50 years ago, GM was going to do the same thing with the Corvette. So picture it. It's the early 1970s. GM President Ed Cole has decided he wants a mid-engine sports car to really wow the car show crowds in North America and in Europe. And he also has a fascination with the Wankel rotary engine. This engine is basically completely different in how it functions from anything we're used to here in the good old US of A, right? This was designed by a German many years ago, and it basically, instead of having a bunch of pistons moving like this, turning a crankshaft, this engine has a stationary shaft in it, and basically a triangular cylinder that moves around that shaft on a gear. You'll see here. Really crazy. I'm not going to get into how that works into much detail, but completely different concept on the internal combustion engine. Ed Cole decided he not only wanted his mid-engine supercar to be really eye-catching, he wanted it to be rotary powered. So his engineers got to work, because after all, he's the president of GM, and they designed a two-rotor engine design for the Corvette. But the engineers also decided they wanted to do a little bit more than that, so they bolted two Wankel rotary engines together to create the four-rotor Wankel Corvette. This engine was installed on the former XP882 chassis, and yeah, it was a great idea, but due to the fuel crisis and kind of an underwhelming amount of feedback from the auto shows, this entire project was just scrapped. But let's take a little deeper dig into this, shall we? The Wankel rotary engine four-rotor concept. Basically, this was two separate Wankel engines ran on each side of a shaft that then ran back to the bevels at the transmission output. Each engine was 90 degrees out of phase so that they wouldn't end up both rotating at the exact same time and causing weird vibrations in the car. There was a toothed groove cog belt that ran the ignition, the alternator, and the fuel pump, and a regular 1970s style V-belt controlled the air conditioning, power steering, and water pump. The combined size of both of those engines put together was 390 cubic inches, and stated output was 350 to 370 horses, but Zora Arkus Duntoff and the engineers believed that with tuning they could make as much as 480 horsepower with that setup. Now, this was installed on the XP882 chassis. The engineers took it out with this engine in it and ran it up to 148 miles an hour before having to get on the brakes because they were running out of track. This car was exceptionally difficult to design because of all of the requirements for airflow, cooling, and many of the other things that the rotary engine setup required that a regular engine in the rear would not have. Ed Cole was also adamant that he wanted to produce this car in a teardrop shape, which you can see in some of the pictures here. Part of that was the windshield itself had a 72-degree slope to it. Now, to compare that, if you look at a modern-day Lamborghini Huracan, this windshield had a steeper rake on it than that, and that's pretty steep. Some of the notable design features were wheel flares and vents behind the rear glass. And the drag coefficient on this car was 0.325, which was astounding for the time period. By comparison, the C5 Corvette, when it was introduced in 1997, boasted a drag coefficient of 0.29. So the four-rotor concept was not that far off. Side cooling intakes for the engine and bifold gull-wing doors were also key design cues. The plush leather and suede seats as seen here were very, very nice, far higher spec than what the C3 would eventually get. It also featured a futuristic digital smoked black instruments cluster that pivoted with the telescoping tilt and telly column. The concept did poorly at the Paris Air Show in 1973, and also, as I said earlier, with the fuel crisis, one of the problems with the Wankel was it made great power and it was a compact unit, but it drank fuel like it was going out of style, which in 1973 and 74 was a big problem. So the entire project was scrapped and they ended up putting a regular V8 into the car and it was rebranded as the concept car as the Aerovet. This could have been the first production mid-engine Corvette and would have been the first Wankel rotary engine application in the United States at that time. So that, in a nutshell, guys, is the story of the crazy four-rotor Corvette. If you ever go to the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, most likely you will see the car there. That's where it normally lives, although GM does shuffle it back and forth to some special locations like Carlisle for special events. But when you see it, you'll know just how weird and special that car really was. And some of the things they learned in developing that, believe it or not, 50 years later did bleed into the C8 development. And that turned out to be a pretty darn good car. I hope you enjoyed our trip back into Corvette history today. Look forward to your comments and any other ideas you have below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like what we do here, those are the two things you can do that help us the most that cost you nothing. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.